VLR.
If spending money like water was the answer to our country's problems, we would have no problems now.
This is the Modern Comment Show with your host, Amy Curtis, here on Vigilant Liberty Radio.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Modern Comments Radio here on Vigilant Liberty Radio. I am Amy Curtis, your host, and thank you for tuning into the program. We took last week off, so I hope everybody had a wonderful and very happy Thanksgiving.
No, I worked.
You worked? Oh, bummer. Well, we will hash out Thanksgiving, our Thanksgiving adventures in a moment, but if you would like to join in, you can go to the chat room by going to vigilantlibertyradio.us/chat, pick a username, jump in the chat room, or you can tweet me on Twitter at Modern Comments, and I will do my best to watch my notifications and work your comments into the program. Joining me this evening, as you heard, who had to unfortunately work on Thanksgiving, is my producer, Taylor, who you can find on Twitter at iDesertBlog. That's EYE, Desert Blog. How are you, Taylor?
I'm doing just fine. If everybody gets to the chat room and they see something which says, please upgrade Java to continue, no, don't click on that. Just enter in a username. If you're going into the chat room and you're on a PC, Flash works better. For a Mac, it is a Java that works better. At some point, we're apparently going to have a new chat room, if I understand. And since Cranky T-Rex is in the chat, he can answer this. We're going to have a new chat room soon, right, Cranky T-Rex?
He's working on a response.
Yeah. Okay, he's waiting for I'll get Liz on it. Thanks, Chris.
Yes, thank you, Chris, for that update. But yes, join the chat room or tweet me at Modern Comments, and I will, like I said, I will work your comments into the program. I'd like to welcome my guests this evening. Guests, as usual. First, of course, joining me is Dave.
Guten Abend.
Who you can find on Twitter at Charnina53219. That's CZARNINA 53219.
Makes sense if you know Polish.
It makes sense if you know Polish, and of course, I'm sure everybody out there who's listening knows Polish. He will be changing that Twitter handle soon. We're working on a new one for him. And then a first-time guest...
Mr. Modern Comments. Simple as that.
Actually, duck soup, because it's literally Charnina, and I like the Marx Brothers.
And people will be able to spell it, including me. Because I'm sober, and I struggle with spelling the word.
That says something.
Yeah, it does say something. You need a new Twitter handle. That's what it says. And first-time guest to my program, but not a stranger to VLR, Katrina Jorgensen, who you can find on Twitter at Verbatim. Hi, Katrina. How are you?
Thanks for having me. It's good to be on Vigilant Radio, as always.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining in. And I know you had said you'd like to be on. I had asked you a couple weeks ago when I subbed for the Conservative Feminist Show if you could join me, and you were unable to, but you offered to be on, and I took you up on that invitation, so I'm glad you could join us this evening.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Excellent.
I always like being on other people's shows because then I have to do way less work.
That's way less work is always a good thing. Always a good thing. And tonight we are going to have a little bit of fun with some of the topics in the first half of the show, and then we're going to get into the stuff you're an expert on, Syria and the foreign policy things in the second half after our break. But I want to start by talking about something that's not political, but is interesting to me, entertaining to me. And I'm going to give you all a warning now. Spoiler alerts are coming. So if you are a fan of The Walking Dead and for some reason have not seen last week's mid-season finale or are in the process of catching up with the program through Netflix or whatever, I'm going to spoil the mid-season finale for you. So you have been warned. Don't tweet me and say I ruined it, because I'm telling you repeatedly, spoilers are coming. So this past Sunday was the mid-season finale of The Walking Dead, and like drinking bourbon and doing internet radio and a slew of other things I hadn't done before, Walking Dead was something that I got into because of Twitter, because every Sunday night it was nothing but The Walking Dead in my feed and everybody raving about what a great show it was and how much they enjoyed it and how into it they were. So I thought, I'll try it. I'm not crazy about the zombie genre. I didn't used to like, I'm not a huge fan of horror movies. I don't like a lot of gore and violence when I'm watching movies necessarily. It depends on the context. So I had put off watching the program when it first aired originally, but I got into it starting in season 4 and kind of got hooked. So this past Sunday was the mid-season finale, and the episode was titled Coda. And we said goodbye to one of the main characters, Beth Green, the teenager daughter of Herschel and sister to Maggie. And it took me by surprise. I was with my brother. We watched The Walking Dead together, the mid-season finale together, and we both kind of looked at each other and went, wow, because we expected them to leave us hanging like they did at the last season, where we didn't know what was going to happen to our band of survivors. But instead, this totally caught me off guard. And I know Cranky T-Rex in the chat room says, too much personal drama, not enough zombies. I think that's kind of what the show is. It's about...
Welcome to the comic book.
Yeah.
That's what it is. No, that's what the comic book is about, too.
And I have not read the comic book, so I know that there are people who have, so they kind of have a feel for what's coming. I have not read the comic books. I want to, but it's another thing I'm adding to my list of things I want to do, like all the movies that Chris, Cranky T-Rex, in the chat room has recommended that I see. My list of I must do this, I must read this, I must see this grows and never seems to shrink. But yeah, it's about the people and how they survive. And there's been a shift, because I've gone back and watched some of the earlier episodes. There's been a shift from we have to fight the zombies and get away from the zombies, and the zombies are a thing to fear, to the zombies are a normal part of this world that we live in, as awful as that is. And now we have to deal with sort of the monster that is inside of us. And if you watched the end of season 4, you know that they ended up at a place called Terminus when
Barbecue.
Terminus, which turns out, again, spoiler alert, turns out to be a not so nice place where it's run by a bunch of cannibalistic psychopaths. And the monsters have now sort of become their fellow man. And they've always had that sort of tension building throughout the series, where they've run into groups of hostile people, most notably the governor in season 3, when he attacks them at the prison and destroys the prison and kills Herschel and causes all sorts of problems for our survivors. But it's most of what I have seen and most of what I have read has been shock and sadness that Beth is now gone. Most people seem to like her character and think that she had a subtle tough streak that kind of came out in the past, several episodes, where she's been on her own with Daryl, and then on her own in this hospital, Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta, where she's working at the behest of a police officer by the name of Dawn Lerner, who runs the hospital and is trying very, very hard to keep control of things. And as she's trying, the harder she tries, the more things kind of spin out of chaos. So I was shocked that they killed her off, and I knew something was going to happen, because they said they were bracing for an emotional impact, but I thought they were going to leave us kind of hanging, wondering what was going to happen. But at the end of this scene, Dawn stood up to Carol, the cop, who'd been causing problems for people at the hospital and attempted to kill her, and Dawn shot Beth in the head, and Beth died, and Dawn was killed immediately afterwards by, I believe it was Daryl. So kudos to them on an excellent and powerful mid-season finale, and I'm hoping the second half of the season, which comes back February 8th, will be just as interesting. But
what's TNT doing in the interim?
In the interim, AMC is running.
AMC, sorry.
They are not. I don't know what they are running to fill in, because during the summer break they ran a great historical series called Turn, which I did watch, based on the first spies in the American Revolution. I don't know if that's coming back. I didn't look into that. I'm not saying it's consistent, because Cranky T-Rex in the chat room says they were always crying about Carl, and that's the main character, Rick, his son, running off, who leaves their kids unsupervised in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. I wouldn't. I'm able to sort of suspend that reality a little bit, but you can better believe if that ever was the reality, my kids wouldn't be leaving whatever structure we were confined to, because I don't want them getting eaten by a zombie. Yes, Dave?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I agree.
You agree? Okay, you sighed. So
No,
it was an excellent mid-season finale, and
I can just imagine Steven getting the head thing right.
Aim for the head, destroy the brain. Yes, but if you are into that sort of genre and you haven't picked up the program, I recommend watching it, even though I told you what happens at the end of this mid-season. There's so much that happens in the first 4 seasons that it's worth watching, and it's interesting to see the progression of what's going on. And Cranky T-Rex says AMC is running Christmas movies right now, which will be nice. That'll be a refreshing break, because Turn, as interesting as it was, is a very heavy historical drama, and you have to be in the right frame of mind to take in the history that they're throwing at you. And it is the season for Christmas movies, so you can turn in and listen to that as well. The other thing I wanted to talk about, which is sort of related to The Walking Dead, is a new movie that is coming out sometime next year. And it was something that Katrina actually pointed out to me that I didn't know they were turning into a movie. And that is Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, which is based on a book by Seth Grahame-Smith. He wrote the book, I believe, in 2009, and revised that Jane Austen classic to incorporate a zombie apocalypse in the mid-19th century England, and now they are turning it into a movie. So I started reading Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and I am a huge Jane Austen fan. Pride and Prejudice is not my favorite work by her. That would be Sense and Sensibility, but I do enjoy Pride and Prejudice, especially the BBC version with Colin Firth. Yes, we were talking about that, right, Katrina, before we went on air?
Yes, about the love of young girls of Colin Firth in that movie.
Yes, I think every woman with a pulse pretty much is moved by Colin Firth in that movie.
She licks the screen when he comes on.
I enjoy him immensely. Yes, Katrina.
It's just, I definitely think that we all have a little special place in our heart for Colin Firth within that movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
his
Mr.
Never
Darcy
read the
very
book
special.
though. Not the original. I obviously read the original, but I did not read Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies. I just thought it sounded cool. I think I read a knockoff. Like someone wrote another. They took a different Jane Austen book and tried to make it about zombies or vampires, I think maybe. And I read it and I was just like, oh no, thank you. No.
Well, I have a copy of Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I downloaded it to my Nook. And I didn't get through all of it because it's as long as the original, but he does a very good job, the author, Seth Grahame-Smith, of incorporating the zombie scenes by mimicking Jane Austen's language. So it's different, but it works.
I remember what the book was now that I read the knockoff. It was Mr. Darcy Vampire, spelled with a Y, of course.
Oh, brother.
It was terrible. Do not read it.
I won't, because it will ruin that ideal image of Colin Firth that I have in my mind. it will definitely ruin that. And so now